Hello. There you go. I love this hat. It's one of my best inventions. Not really. I've had better. More important. This is really isn't important. It's just ironic. But, what do we talk about? What do we want to talk about? What do you want to hear? See, I don't tell you what you want to hear. I don't care what you want to hear. If you want to tell you what you want to hear, oh, the world is great. The economy's doing great. Interest rates will come down. Your paycheck's gonna go up, and your kids love you more today than they did yesterday. And some of that's true, and most of it's not. And it depends on you. I mean, some people, all those things are true, except for the interest rates, but you know, in the economy. But like Trump didn't invent. I don't like even using his name because, like, if you're watching this 8 years from now, you're like, oh, Trump. Who cares about Trump? He's gone. He's dead. So whatever. But he's a pivotal point in our society at this particular time in 26. And, and he's using the same tactics with Iran, which is make a deal or we're bombing to oblivion, that your boss uses on you. And that's really what I wanted to segue to, is how your boss treats you, how your wife treats you, and some part how your kids treat you. And, and it's all make a deal or bomb to oblivion. It's like, uh, you don't go to work today, you know, there goes the house, there goes the car, there goes the wife, there goes the kids, so that's your bombing to oblivion. And, and your wife does it too, oh, you don't do what I want, and I'll file for divorce, and I'll take half your money, I'll take your house, I'll take your car, and it's another form of oblivion, you know. Your kids, if you don't get me the latest iPhone or the latest iPad or the MacBook, I'm going to hate you and I'm going to make you regret it forever. And, it's just the art of the deal is no longer there. And it's funny that the man who wrote the book, Art of the Deal, doesn't even know how to do a deal. He doesn't. He's clueless. And it's bad because he's a representative of the most powerful person in the world or the country, and people follow that. They see that's what he did, so I can do that. And you know, and you're like, well, let's go back to your job. You know, you could say, well, one thing they want you to believe. They don't want to talk. The one thing they want you to believe the most is that you're stuck where you are. You can't get a better job. You can't get more money. Uh, confirmation. You can't do what you want to do. You cannot free. You're under my thumb. And I sign your paycheck, so I get to say what you do and how you do it and when you do it. But it's not true, But the whole system is designed to make that true. Like when you go to your next job, they're gonna first thing they're out of their mouth is, where did you come from? Why did you leave? How much were you making? Um, all those kinds of details. Uh, and they use all of that against you like a court of law. You know, what you say can and will be used against you, and they do. You know, it's like, well, if you say I'm making 40,000 a year, well, that hurts you in your negotiation for a new salary at the new job, because they're going to say, well, we'll give you 45, we'll give you 40. You know, and if you're desperate, they'll give you 35. You know, so it might not always work out in your favor. You know, but and say, why'd you leave? You know, oh, I didn't get along with the boss. You know, that's always a good one. You know, well, there's going to be a new boss. Are you going to have a problem getting along with the new boss? That's the question they're going to ask themselves when looking at you. You know, and it's all designed to keep you in your cubicle seat. You know, you're afraid because you know those questions are coming, and you know the answers, and you're defeated before you even get out of the seat. You know, you're defeated. You know, like you see the guy that shows up to work in his suit because you know he's going on an interview. He might not say it. He'll make up an excuse why he's wearing a suit and he never does. But he's wearing a suit today, you know. It's like, he's going to disappear from lunch for an hour or two. And you're like, well, you know, he's going on an interview. But a lot of people look at him like, oh, he's foolish. You know, like, he's not going to get the job, or, you know, stuff like that. Or how dare he have ambition? You know, it's like, because that's the crabs in the bucket thing, you know. It's like if you try to escape the bucket, the crabs come and pull you back in, you know. And that's what that's all about, you know. And I say, go for it, you know. I did it, you know. So, and they say it's easier to get a job with a job, you know. And it's easier to get a girlfriend with a girlfriend. I mean, but it's just defeating you. You know, it's like Trump wants Iran to feel defeated before, you know, I don't think we were in the war a week, and he's like, we already won. Now, 8 weeks later, we're still fighting, and we're nowhere near winning, you know. And now what we're trying to do is keep from being embarrassed, which is kind of too late for that, you know, which is what you do when you leave your job, you know. You don't want to be unemployed and on unemployment because you lost your job and all that, because it's embarrassing, you know. And if you quit, you don't get unemployment, so you're screwed there. So you can't quit until you have another job. And this, once your job finds out you're going somewhere else, you know, they can send you with open arms, or they can try to screw you, you know. And you know, they don't give you references, or they fire you when they find out you're looking for another job because they don't trust you now. You know, and in the sales position, they're worried about you poaching some of their clients and stuff like that. So, you know, and it's hard. There's no trust. And, you know, even I remember my friend went to, what was it, Westbury University, Old Westbury College. It's a SUNY college. It's one of the lower ranked SUNY colleges. Anyway, he went there for accounting, and the account, there was an account that came from like a big accounting firm to do a lecture of some kind, or a speech. And my friend asked him, he's like, is there any chance I could get a job with you when I get out of here? And he was like, no. He's like, we don't hire from this school. Which is pretty blunt and pretty poor, harsh. And he's like, well, why are you here? You know, that was my friend's answer, you know. And he, I don't know what he said. But, you know, certain big companies, they only hire from certain schools, you know. And that's why, you know, certain schools that you want to go to, you should call it, if you want to be an accountant, you should call accounting firms and say, where do you hire from? You know, what schools? If I go to this school, will you hire me? And they'll tell you yes or no. And you'll know whether it's a waste of time to go to that school or not, you know. And, but in reality, it's not a waste of time anywhere because education is never a waste of time, you know. And when I worked in the city, they barely cared what university you went to or even your grades. They didn't care about your grades. They cared that you had a degree. Yes, they cared about that. But they didn't really care about the college or the grades. I had one employer ask me for my grades, you know, and they hired me, but then I quit. So, you know, it's just, don't buy the bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit, you know, because a lot of schools will tell you, you know, you can't get this job without this. They're looking for this. And I tell you, I went for the CPA exam, and I can't tell you how many questions, how many issues were on that CPA exam that after having a 4-year degree in accounting, I had never, ever heard of. It was not part of the school education. You know, and they're not preparing you to pass the test. And you have to go when you graduate, before you take the test, you have to take a prep course, and they prepare you to take the test. You know, so $60,000 and you're not even prepared to take a test. You have to spend another couple of $1,000 to get prepared for the test. So I'm just saying, we're all bombarded by ideas. I mean, I'm free, you know. I consider myself a free person. I don't work. I'm not poor. Uh, but for the moment, I'm stuck where I am now. I can't leave. I mean, I can go out. I don't have to. I can even go on vacation for a month and come back and have my apartment, and I'm fine. So I'm not really confined in any way. Is what I'm trying to say. Is that, but in order to get this rent, which is a couple $100 a month, uh, I'm stuck here. You know, and I could ask for a transfer. I could ask them to move me, but like with the job, you know, you don't know if it's going to be worse. You know, you don't know if your roommates will be worse, or they'll steal your food, or they do drugs, or whatever. You just don't know. You know, and right now I'm by a train station, and it's not that bad. One of my last housings, I was I was by the Parkway, and that was horrible because it's 24-hour traffic, 24/7 traffic. There's never a break. Even, you know, you think there's a break at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and you'd be surprised how many motorcycles are out on the road at 3 o'clock in the morning. And not one, but like a whole group, you know. And believe me, you wake up when that happens, and it's not a fun way to wake up. You know, windows closed or windows open, it don't matter. You're going to hear it, you know, because 3 o'clock in the morning, everything you hear. And, you know, so it's horrible. And if I try to move from here and move from my train station, I could end up next to a parkway. Now, that's not only the worst part. I have shopping around here. I have supermarkets. I have stores. I have bus routes. I have the train station. I can get in the city in 5 minutes. You know, stuff like that. But if I move to another place, I might be in a food desert. You know, no supermarket for miles. I have to take a car, a taxi, or an able ride to go shopping. You know, and, you know, if I want to go to McDonald's. I had to do Uber Eats because I don't have a car, you know. And right now I don't have any of those problems. So you gotta weigh your options, you know. And the job tries to put the favor in them, you know, because a lot of jobs, you know, not all of them, but a lot of them jobs invest training into you, you know, some more than others, and they invest a lot of money into training you for a job. So they don't want to train you and then just have you pick up and leave, you know. So they feel they have an investment in you, and they want to keep you. And they want you to stick around. Whether they're going to promote you, well, that's a whole different story, you know. But because they need workers, they don't need bosses. There's like one boss and how many workers, right? So, and the ones that become bosses are usually of a certain cut, you know, and they usually don't come from the lower ranks. They bring them from the outside. So, you know, it's just, I don't know what that noise is, but I'm hearing it. I don't know if you are, but, you know, it's just, to hear my roommate's blind, and he plays music all day. He plays opera, he plays all kinds of music. Um, but at the same token, he doesn't know what an app is. You know, he asked me the other day, "What's an app?" And I'm like, I go, "It's a computer. It's a program on your phone." And he's like, "Oh," I'm like, "You have him on your phone because he has a phone, but he uses Siri." And I'm like, "Siri's an app, you know." So anyway, it's just when your job invests in you, that's why they want to fire you when they find out you're looking for another job, because they're kind of mad. They're mad that you're not loyal. They're mad that you uh, didn't come to them for maybe a raise or a better position. Uh, and maybe you did all those things and you still want to leave. And you have every right to, you know. You're not a prisoner and you are a slave. You're a wage slave. But you can change farms. You know, you don't have to be a slave on this farm. You can go to that farm. But you got to be in a farm. If you're like farm, a circus. You're a monkey in a circus. And that's all you'll ever be. I don't care if you become the ringleader. You're still the monkey in the circus. And that's the way the system's designed. And that's why they keep you. And that's why they don't really negotiate. Because, you know, they don't have to. You know. And you'll see negotiations, like last night was the NFL draft. And the first pick, you know, he knows he's getting picked. And he knows he's going to get a good salary. But there's limits to what he can do. You know, football doesn't pay like baseball. You know, baseball makes $700 million if you're lucky. You know, that's the one you know. There's a lot more that only get a couple of $1,000,000. You know, so don't get fooled with that either. You know, but I don't know of anybody, or even Tom Brady, who made $700 million playing football. So the season is short. There's only like 14, 15 games. So they're not going to pay you $700 million. And you can get injured overnight and everything out the window. So you're not going to get that. But, you know, and like Tiger Woods, you know, he made a lot of money playing golf. But most people playing golf don't make his kind of money, you know. And he made his money on endorsements, you know. It's like commercials and stuff like that. And I'm sure Tom Brady made his share for commercials, you know, not playing football. So, and again, what are you going to do? I mean, Michael Jordan, he tried to quit basketball and go to play baseball. And that was like the biggest laughing stock of the year. And he wasn't really successful at it. And he didn't last doing it very long. But I give him credit for trying. I give anybody credit for trying, because trying is the hardest part, and if you don't try, you'll never find out, you know. And being the number one basketball player and going into baseball is just didn't seem like a lateral move, you know. But whatever, he did what he did for whatever reason he did it, and I think the results were what everybody expected. It wasn't going to last. And I think a lot of the baseball owner hired him and put him on the field because he knew the crowds would come and pay his seat ticket to see Michael Jordan play baseball. You know, I think that was more the motive than that he was going to be a great baseball player for the team. You know, so, and I don't remember what team he played for. I don't remember. I don't care. I don't think anybody else does either. Ugh. Ugh. Oh, it's early. 9 o'clock in the morning. You know, it's just. They want you to think you're free, like your job. You know, your job makes you think you're free. Some jobs, not all jobs. Some jobs you are a slave and you know you're a slave. Other jobs, they play you. They play you. They play the system and make you think you're free. Until you go to another job and find out you're not so free. You know, your limitations to what you can do. You know, and it's hard. You know, because like some jobs you can't do overtime to make extra money. If you're a salary employee, you don't get paid for overtime. And they expect many hours of overtime, even though they don't pay you for it. You know, so. And if you work hourly wage, they limit your overtime, you know, or you have to share overtime with other workers, so to spread the wealth kind of thing. You know, and it's hard, you know. You got those bills coming in, and they don't want to hear you can't make another couple hours up, or you can't forget doing a second job. And I know some people do 2 and 3 jobs, but there's limits to that too. You know, sooner or later you break down, and you go from 3 jobs to no jobs. So I don't know. I don't see where you really benefited yourself, you know, by doing that. And it's really hard to live when you've been living off of 3 jobs to live on nothing, you know. And most people that work 3 jobs, either they're doing it for health insurance or they don't have any health insurance. So if they get sick, they're screwed. So look, most bad things that are in your life are there to teach you a lesson. And your lesson is to learn what the lesson is. And once you do that, you move on to a new lesson. You don't just stop learning. One lesson leads to another lesson, you know. It's like a computer, and I think everybody can relate to the computer. It's like you learn how to turn it on, and you learn how to download something or upload something or write an email. You know, everything builds on another. I mean, now you think of it as redundant and crappy because you've learned it a long time ago, and it's second nature to you. It's like eating. You know how to chew. You don't have to learn how to chew. And you know, writing an email is easy. Not about putting the words together, but situating yourself where you can write an email is not that very hard to do. But it all builds on itself. And that's what I'm trying to make the point of. The little things, it's all stepping stones. You know, you just, once you do this step, you get to, and that's what the problems in your life are. There's one step after another. You know? You'll have a daughter, and then she'll have to go to school, and then she'll have a boyfriend, and she'll want to get married, and you have to pay for the wedding. You know, and then she'll get pregnant. You got to take care of your grandkids. It's just one step after another, and that's life, you know. And I don't care what you do. And this country is going to face major problems with population, since so many, a huge percentage of our civilization, of our citizenry is over 65. Yeah, I don't know how many percentage, what's the percentage of people that are over 65, and the ones that are young that should be having kids now are not, and are afraid to, and can't afford to. But there's going to be a huge problem with this country. We're going to have no population, and it's going to make us susceptible to being taken over by China or another country, and because we won't have the army to fight. We won't have the army to deter them, and I think to a great extent, it's going to be a big problem. And we're not addressing it. I think that's, if you want to look at why the anti-abortion push has been so powerful lately, is because of the population problem. But the problem is we don't take care of our kids, and we really don't. We send them off to the school and have somebody else raise them, and that's not to raise your kids. The people at school don't love your kids the way you do, and Johnny acts up, they put him in a corner with a dunce hat on his head. I'm sure they don't use the dunce hat anymore, but they put him in a corner, time out, I don't think they can get what they can get from you, what they get from the stranger. So, there is that. But life is hard. It always will be. Live with it. That's all.